Hey everybody, Rob Maurer here. Welcome back to Tesla Daily. Quite a few things to go through today for Tesla. We've got an update on the Cybertruck. We've also got news on supercharging, a lawsuit from Tesla this time. And we've got quite a few international updates as well. Wild day to start off Tesla earnings week today in the markets. After a horrible morning where the Nasdaq was down nearly 5%, it rallied in the afternoon and actually finished in the green, up 0.6%. As that huge drop was happening this morning, I was looking at some historical numbers for the Nasdaq, and at one point this was tracking to be in the 99.5 percentile of worst days for the Nasdaq ever. So like a 40-year plus history. So quite the recovery to say the least. And even though Tesla didn't finish positive, it did regain about 9% or so from the day's lows, closing down just 1.5% to $930 per share even. Hey, I'll take a 9% recovery over the course of a few hours. Hopefully everyone listening made it out unscathed from that dip, but it is a good reminder about the dangers of leverage and also the significant danger of stop losses. Anyway, this week will continue to be a very interesting week as we work through it. About 1/5 of the S&P 500 is set to report earnings this week. Microsoft earnings report will be in focus tomorrow. That'll happen after market close. Of course, then we've got Tesla on Wednesday, Apple on Thursday. Then on top of this and all the volatility, you've got the Federal Reserve meeting and reporting their comments on Wednesday afternoon. That'll happen about 2 hours before market close. A few people have asked me about my Tesla earnings preview, and I do plan on doing that for tomorrow's episode. All right, getting into the Tesla specific news, last night we had a pretty significant leak happen, a few photos and videos coming out of what appears to be the newest Cybertruck Alpha prototype. It seemed like Tesla had this on display of some sort, and either from employees or contractors, these things leaked out. First to the Cybertruck Motors Club forum, I think, and then a couple of videos showed up on Twitter as well. So what we're seeing in these photos gives us a much clearer look at some of the elements that we had seen in the drone flyer video at Fremont that had previously captured the Cybertruck. Here we're seeing again the mirrors, the wiper, and it looks like some new wheels here, but I think that's actually a bit deceiving. If you look closely at the tires, you can see that there is a little bit of an indentation there, and that seems to match the silhouette of the wheel covers that were on the Cybertruck prototype. So I think what we're seeing here is the wheel without the aero covers or caps on. The other difference that kind of sticks out immediately to me is that this does seem to be further along in the process, because if you remember back to those drone flyer videos, for the wiper, there was this weird wire running off of it. So it kind of seemed like the power supply for the wiper wasn't fully integrated into the vehicle. That doesn't seem to be the case here, although obviously that could just be removed for display purposes. I think the other element that we get a little bit more detail on here is in relation to the doors. Remember, the Cybertruck prototype had sort of Model S style door handles. Elon had previously said that the final Cybertruck would not have door handles, so here we see that design, and you can see in the B pillar and the C pillar, from a distance you can see these little white dots right above the seams of the doors, and a couple of other frames in the video show those up close, and as expected, they look very, very similar to the design that we had seen on the prototype Roadster doors. Likely a little touch panel there with an indicator light. So we'll have to wait and see on the execution of this. I can foresee this being a common area of complaint. But with this design, I'd also guess that you could open the door off of your phone, and there may be a small possibility that they build in some of the Model X-like features, like the auto-present driver's side door, though I wouldn't expect that. Anyway, looking at this version side by side with the previously unveiled prototype, I think it looks very similar overall. Obviously, the mirror and the wiper changed that a little bit. Some states do allow you to take the mirrors off. We've talked about that before. Tesla's got to put them on there, but Elon has said that they will make them removable. And then on the wiper, we don't know if this is going to be the final design. Elon had said from that drone footage that the drone footage version wouldn't be, and at a minimum, this is pretty similar to that. I think the other main difference that people seem to be commenting on is maybe it looks a little bit shorter or a little bit stubbier, and that's definitely a possibility, but I would be hesitant to draw that conclusion again just from these photos. Different lenses and angles can have a huge effect on stuff like that, so although I do think it does look a little bit shorter and stubbier, I would like to see some more photos first. The only other thing is that there doesn't appear to be any sign of the top light bar, which I think really added to the look of the original prototype. I really hope that hasn't been removed, but no sign of it in that drone video, no sign of it here, so definitely a possibility. Last thing I'll say is that the original prototype did look a lot better in person than in any of these photos, especially when in motion. Still weird looking for sure, but I would expect that is the case for this one too, probably looking better in person. Anyway, the other interesting news we've got on the Cybertruck is that it was spotted yesterday being unloaded at Giga Texas by Joe Tagmeyer in one of his drone flyovers, which is certainly interesting timing given the earnings report on Wednesday, which is expected to be accompanied by a product roadmap update from Elon. Maybe just coincidental. I think my best guess would be that they've got it there for some photography for the shareholder letter. Some people thinking maybe they'll surprise everyone and this would be an earnings video rather than an earnings call. I wouldn't expect that. Definitely can't rule it out, but I would say pretty low probability. And even with all this Cybertruck activity, which is very exciting, I don't expect any sort of bullish update on the timeline for the Cybertruck. I still don't expect deliveries until next year. All right, next we've got some potential news on Tesla Supercharging. I don't love reporting on this because I do think it is just from one source, but I feel like sometimes I kind of have to. Sawyer Merritt is saying that Tesla Superchargers in North America are getting a charging speed bump to 324 kilowatts from 250 sometime later this year. Now, again, just one source, but I do find this plausible because we have seen Tesla refer to rates of 250 kilowatts plus before, specifically the Cybertruck unveiling. And then like we had talked about, I think about a year ago, the specifications for the V3 supercharging hardware do seem to indicate that they would be capable of higher power output. So hopefully this is accurate. If it is, it would remain to be seen how beneficial it is for each vehicle type. For 2017 to 2021 Model 3 and Y, maybe not that beneficial. For the refresh Model S and X, those are staying at the 250 kilowatt rate for a larger part of the charging curve. So it could be a pretty big benefit for those vehicles. And then of course, the biggest question would be the eventual performance of the 4680s. Next, we've got an update on a lawsuit. We had previously talked about JP Morgan suing Tesla for $162 million that they felt they were owed as a result of some adjustments made by JP Morgan to warrants that they held around the time of Tesla's going private saga. We'd previously gone through the details of that back on the November 16th episode, so I won't rehash all that. Just check that episode out if you're curious. But we do have an update to that today, and the update is that Tesla is now countersuing JP Morgan. The Wall Street Journal report isn't entirely clear, but to me from reading their report, it sounds like Tesla is arguing that JP Morgan shouldn't have received any payment from the warrants at all, and certainly not the $162 million that JP Morgan is arguing that they're owed. Tesla in the lawsuit wrote, quote, JP Morgan pressed its exorbitant demand as an act of retaliation against Tesla, both for it having passed over JP Morgan in major business deals and out of senior JP Morgan executives' animus towards Mr. Musk, end quote. The Wall Street Journal also reports that Tesla said that JP Morgan had no right to make the change to the warrants, quote, in part because it said the bank didn't really believe Mr. Musk would take Tesla private. It said Mr. Musk's tweets didn't impact the value and that none of the other banks made the change, end quote. Okay, I think the latter part of that, saying that the other banks didn't make a change, is compelling, but seems like kind of a strange argument to make that, oh, you shouldn't have changed it because you didn't actually believe what Elon said. Not sure that reflects all that positively, but I suppose in a lawsuit, it doesn't really matter how it reflects. All that really matters is the legality of the case. Quote, Tesla said the bank broke the contract and instead should have canceled the warrants and returned them. The suit is seeking unspecified damages and fees from the bank, end quote. Well, I know there's supposed to be different parts of the business, but I don't think we're going to be seeing a buy rating on Tesla stock from JP Morgan anytime soon. Remember, that's Ryan Brinkman, and they currently have a $295 price target on the stock. All right, next up, we've got a pretty cool report from Bloomberg. They apparently track automotive production by factory in the United States. They've now come out with a report, and they're saying that for 2021, Tesla's production out of Fremont outpaced any other auto factory in the United States. Quote, last year, Tesla's factory in Fremont, California produced an average of 8,550 cars a week. That's more than Toyota Motor Corp's juggernaut in Georgetown, Kentucky, 8,427 cars a week, BMW AG's Spartanburg hub in South Carolina, 8,343, or Ford Motor Company's iconic truck plant in Dearborn, Michigan, 5,564, according to a Bloomberg analysis of production data for more than 70 manufacturing facilities, end quote. So fun to see that, even if it is short-lived for Fremont. I'm sure they'll relinquish that spot to Giga Texas very quickly. And although this is just one factory and other automakers have multiple different factories, so their total US production is higher, I do think it's nice to acknowledge. And of course, it pairs very nicely with the previous study that showed the Model 3 as the most American-made vehicle. Outside of the US, we've got a couple of pieces of news as well. A listener in Spain shared with me an email that they received from Tesla highlighting Tesla Insurance. The text says that this is in partnership with Helvetia Insurance, which is a Swiss insurance company. In the US and the States that Tesla does offer Tesla Insurance, they do partner with insurance companies too, but my guess here is that this is more of just a branding thing than Tesla Insurance like we're seeing in the US. But maybe Tesla's starting to lay some of that groundwork. If any listeners have more insight on that market, let me know. We've also got some news out of Turkey, with the Daily Sabah today reporting that Tesla is planning to fully launch their operations in Turkey, including stores and service centers, and apparently the sale of all 4 vehicles that Tesla currently sells, for which the pricing is expected to be announced soon. You can also go on Tesla's website and you can see that there are different locations listed as coming soon now for superchargers in Turkey. CarSalesBase.com has annual vehicle sales in Turkey being relatively volatile, but somewhere around 700,000 or so on average. Next up, we've got kind of a piecemeal report from Nikkei Asia on Panasonic's development of their 4680 cells. The headline reads, Panasonic to start producing new Tesla batteries in 2023, of course referring to the 4680s. And the body begins saying, quote, Panasonic will start mass production of new lithium-ion batteries that increase the range of electric vehicles over 15% as early as 2023, with the first deliveries heading for Tesla, end quote. I wouldn't really read into that range figure. Later in the article, they talk about the 4680s being twice as big as older versions, with a 5-fold increase in capacity. Well, that's just not true. A 4680 is 5.5 times the volume of 2170, so I'm not giving any credibility to their range claims there either. As for the production start, they do say that, quote, Panasonic plans to partially start operations this year to establish safe, efficient techniques before beginning mass production next year. The company has plans to expand mass production in plants in the US or other countries, end quote. Panasonic has already disclosed that they have had a test line for 4680 production, so not really sure exactly how this would differ. Maybe just more testing at a larger scale, but I think with that it's kind of tough to put a lot of stock in this, though the timeline does seem like that would be about what you would expect. A couple of other quick Tesla updates. I did happen to see this email that somebody had shared on Twitter from over in Germany. I'm just kind of bringing this up to address that I don't put any stock on it. It's from somebody at Tesla and it says, Hi Esther, the first Model Ys are built in Berlin right now. If you want to pre-order, it's now possible. I think delivery of the Model YP is around May. This is an email from a Tesla advisor in Germany. So obviously by the grammar there, this is not an official communication from Tesla. Really just bringing this up to note that if you did happen to see this, I don't put any weight in it. The other thing, not super important, but Tesla has updated the pricing for their Doge specific items as the price of Doge has fallen to around 13 or 14 cents. That's down 20% or so since Tesla started accepting Doge, and Tesla has now repriced those items. So the Cyber Whistle, which for example started at 300 Doge, has now been raised to 355 Doge. So like we had joked about before, it looks like Tesla's not going to be setting a price floor for Doge with those items. The adjustment, I guess, kind of makes sense, but then if this was the plan, why not just have it live update like they did when they took Bitcoin? Maybe this is easier, but it looks like it's really not Doge native pricing in any way other than perhaps technically if Tesla's going to make adjustments like this. Anyway, last couple of things here. Lamborghini has announced that 2022 will be the last year for fully internal combustion engine vehicles from them, but that primarily means a move towards hybrid. They don't expect their first electric vehicle until 2028. A little bit of news here from GM then as well. One of their executives has announced that they hope to, by the end of the first quarter, in some US states, launch an algorithm-based auto insurance plan. Initially, they'll be looking at Arizona, Illinois, and Michigan, and it does sound like, at least if I'm understanding this correctly, that they would be using at least some telematics data for this insurance plan. They also said eventually they may incorporate some things from Super Cruise, but no timeline on that. All right, lastly then, just a couple of heads up items. First, I do apologize. I did miss some super chat questions in the live stream on Friday. My bad on that. But I did take the time to go back and respond to those questions in a reply to the pinned comment from that video. So if I missed you, go and check that out. And then lastly, I did have the opportunity to go on Hyperchange and chat a little bit about Tesla. If you're interested in checking that out, I'll put the link for that down in the description. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you're subscribed and signed up for notifications. You can also find me on Twitter at Tesla Podcast, and we'll see you tomorrow for that Tuesday, January 25th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.